Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the US alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow.
They have a very strong compressive bite. They have the capacity to lacerate your skin and bite parts of you off.
Wolves are natural predators, and working with them is not for the faint-hearted. Chris Edrington from Steve Martin's Working Wildlife trains wolves for film and television.
We supply animals for the entertainment industry. I used to call it the film industry, but that's sort of antiquated. It's work in front of a camera where someone is paying us to film an animal that's part of content that somebody else is selling. I would say 90% of the work that I personally do is in front of a camera that way. Mark, stay. Stay. Good boy. Depending on the economy, sometimes 10% of the work or more will be event-related. America's funny that people have disposable income, and somebody occasionally wants a lion at their party, or a wolf, or a baby animal of some kind. These are gray or timber wolves, and name is interchangeable. They come in different colors, dark like these two, or gray like the other one who's wandering around. We have one that's sort of a lighter color too. These particular guys, their bloodline is from North America.
Chris's most famous animal pupils starred in the iconic movie Dances with Wolves. The movie's wolf character, Two Socks, was actually played by two different wolves, Buck and Teddy, who looked so similar only their trainers could tell them apart.
Those wolves lived here. The owner actually had to double the actor Kevin Costner for a couple scenes where they interacted. This group of wolves here, we've done True Blood, Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf. We did 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, and then a bunch of other movies.
Have the card.
Chris has worked with a variety of dangerous animals, and while he makes them seem quite safe and friendly, wolves remain wild predators.
I've enjoyed everything I work with. I work a little bit with our tiger. It's a solitary animal, and I like it, but I like these guys a lot. They give you love. All animals show some emotion, but wolves show love more than any other animal. You'd have to be devoid of a consciousness not to see that and see how they show that to you. It's quite wonderful. Hello, my love. Come on. Come here.
Training wolves is about making the animals familiar with the human world rather than teaching them clever tricks.
Quite frankly, as an animal trainer, I find I don't spend so much time training an animal, but habituating it to the odd things that occur in society. And on a movie set, we have booms and flags and all sorts of things that aren't natural, so we have to get our animals used to that. We have to get them used to loading in a truck or a trailer or whatever cage if we have to go on an airplane. And we try to make that so it's normal and not stressful.
Going into a pen with wolves is dangerous, And no matter how close an owner is to their animals, there will always be a risk.
The two black guys here are a part of an older group. When we got them, we had a lot of film projects at the time, and they worked a lot, and we just happened to build a really good rapport. The other wolf, he's just 2, and so he hasn't worked quite as much, and I don't have as good a rapport with him as these guys. I can still work with him. If a filmmaker wants to shoot with him, we'll go do whatever we have to. But these guys have known me better, and I've done more with them, and we've traveled more places. And they're older, too, so they know that I'm the source of fun more. He's a young punk. In a couple more years, he might be standing over here because he knows that the rubs are good, and maybe we'll go for a walk out into the universe.
Dog trainer and canine behavioral specialist Michael Chill is known for his expertise with wolves and wolf behavior.
Dogs absolutely evolved from wolves, and they share 99.9% of the same genetic makeup. They can interbreed and make fertile offspring, so that's really, from a species perspective, that proves a close relation. Our adult dogs have the similar behavior to a 5-month-old wolf. Our adult dogs are social with strange dogs, typically, are still eager to learn, have a prey drive, but not a serious enough one to really do that much hunting and killing. Our wolves evolve beyond that. Once they become adults, they will accept their own family members, but they're highly aggressive to outside wolves with which they are unfamiliar. They are quite adept predators. They're highly territorial. So when we then go back to the wild to try to redo this and take a wild animal into captivity, we do not have in a wolf a dog with an exotic look. We have a wild predator.
Despite the dangers, extreme animal owners often push the envelope.
Hello, baby boy.
And not only do R.C. and Sharon Bridges keep a bison as a pet, they also keep and breed wolves and wolf dogs.
We do sell our wolves. You know, we have so many people that really enjoy them. And a lot of them, they do make house pets out of them. We have lots of happy customers.
And one person said, "You can't keep a wolf in the house," and Sharon replied back, "We keep a buffalo in our house."
Yeah.
Don't tell me we can't keep a wolf in the house.
Yeah.
The most worried I was one time, we had wolf puppies. And of course, when they're born, the mamas are real protective. And she come running, and I knew I was fixing to get tore up by her, because she's been real aggressive toward me ever since she had the puppies. And when she come after me, I grabbed her and threw her on the ground and held her down. And then she was growling and stuff, but anyway, I just backed off and she was fine.
Wolves live by a strict and ruthless social order, and owners must establish themselves as the pack leader or risk a vicious alpha challenge.
R.C., of course, as the dominant male of the family, he takes charge, and whenever he feels like he's comfortable with me jumping in, because he won't let me jump in and do anything without his okay first.
The way we do them, we keep 2 to 3 in a pen, and we never have any problem with them. We do have an alpha problem occasionally, and I got rid of a female lately because she was causing too many fights.
I raise these guys, and because of how I've worked with them, I think they view me as the top dog. They live in a sort of interesting structure. Biologists tell us that an alpha male and an alpha female will form. And basically what that means is the dominant pair will be the only one that will be allowed to breed. And nature is really cruel. Sometimes the other ones breed, but if they have a successful litter, the alpha male and female will just kill it. The way we raise them, these are very nice, but they're still, you can't take the jungle out of the boy. Nature designs them to be a certain way, and they're wild animals. Therein lies the difference between a domestic dog and this wolf. Even though this guy is just rolling on his back and rubbing his belly, he's still a dangerous animal.
With a bite that can break bones, wolves may look just like exotic dogs, but can they make good pets?
I work with them all the time. I see them every day. No, they're horrible pets. I would never bring one to my house because I know they would be enthralled by my leather couch and they would perforate it with holes. They would rip up my carpet. They would tear down my blinds. I have faith that they would do that. I might be able to get them not to do that when I'm there, but if I walk away, I have faith that they will completely destroy everything when I'm not there. Conversely, when I've had domestic dogs, I train them so that I could trust them. We've basically trained our wild animals not only to behave, but just to be able to convey safely around society. But yeah, no, the wild animals I work with, I would never recommend as having as a pet.
Well, personally, for me and RC both, for us, I think it's great. But it's, with these kind of animals, it's not meant for just anybody to pick up and say, okay, I want to make them a pet. You have to be really dominant. You have to be their leader. If you're not going to be top charge, then no, then they're not going to be safe for a pet.
In spite of the danger, many, including RC and Sharon, still believe that a 100-pound predator can make a good house pet.
We bring all the wolves in the house. You know, we play with them, take pictures with them. Certain ones we'll let the grandkids play with. There's some of them that we won't let the grandkids play with. Ours make a good pet. Just like all animals, depending on how they're raised from beginning, really, is what makes good pets.
When I got in the wolf business, I thought I had a mean animal coming to me. And it wound up being the sweetest animal I've ever been around. And we always hear the stories about the big bad wolf. They're just unbelievably a gentle animal. I do think they're dangerous when you let them run in a pack.
I find you get what you put out. Conversely, if you have a child, a human, and you put it in a closet and 10 years later open the door, what are you going to have? If you have a bear or a lion or a wolf and you raise it appropriately and you get it used to the trappings of humanity and you take it everywhere and you teach it things and you love it, you will have a great animal that's capable of safely operating with other people in human society.
Don't let their looks deceive you. Wolves may resemble the family dog, but they are an apex predator, capable of taking down large prey and causing serious physical injury and even death.
If you're going to house a wolf and they were able to live in a wilderness area and come back to visit, but they certainly weren't put in a captive situation, that's kind of ideal. My wolves became my wolves because people thought they could turn them into dogs with proper training and found out the hard way, it doesn't work. You cannot train a wolf to be a dog.
The debate about whether circuses keeping exotic animals in captivity is right or wrong is gathering momentum. And circuses themselves are in a situation where they're having to consider their future and how their life could change. Regardless of your position on the subject, circuses are still traveling from town to town, entertaining enthusiastic audiences. Would that all change if the exotic animals were no longer there? Jan is the matriarch of the Stardust Circus, which tours around Australia with exotic animals as part of the show. Her family has been working with the animals for generations.
Really a family affair, the whole circus. There are 28 people on, counting all the babies, of course.
This circus is family run, and most of them have grown up working with exotic animals. It's a life they've always known, and they treat their animals as part of their family.
It's a pretty good life, really.
But what's it like to work in a circus with exotic animals?
We have the only 2 remaining circuses in Australia now with exotic animals, and we have both. We have 6 lions, 5 monkeys, and that's all in the way of exotics. The others are pigs, goats, dogs, horses. These animals have been born and bred in captivity, so they don't know any other life. So it's not like they've been plucked from the wild and suddenly they're, living this life. It's not that at all. And people don't seem to understand that. They seem to like the life they've got, I guarantee that. The wild isn't as great as what people make it out to be either.
In the wild, a lion can live up to 14 years. But at the circus, the lions can live up to 25 years without the stresses that come from living in their natural habitat.
Yeah, we treat them like family. They are our family. When we move to each place, they come first. They're set up before anything else. So to make sure they've got all their comforts of home, and even to the point if it's a hot day, the lions have their air conditioners turned on, and if not, they lay out in their yard and snooze all day, and they have a bit of a life of luxury here. They don't do any hard work of any sort. And they don't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from.
The circus is regularly inspected by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to ensure they comply with all the necessary regulations.
A lot of councils have banned the grounds for exotics because the animal liberationists tell them so many lies about what we do to our animals, which doesn't happen at all. And they can make up some doozies of, believe me, some of the stories they tell them. And God, we'd be in jail if we did half of what they tell them.
Jan has bred several lions over the life of the circus, which has provided an interesting story to the taxman.
We had cubs living in a caravan. They had a little bed under the table. And I'd say to them, righto, go to bed. So I had some paperwork on the table. And my husband had the tax return sitting on there. Well, it fell down under the table and it got all chewed up by the cubs. We had to send it in like it was, put it in with a little note that these were chewed up by lions, you see. And so I was singing after it. I bet they thought, no, we've heard everything now, every excuse in the book. This one will take the cake.
Public safety and the safety of the lions is a high priority for the circus. And there's a double fence around the lions area for added protection.
We have barricades around and all that, and the lions do get locked away at night. We have security right around them with the caravans, so our own people are there all the time, 24 hours a day. And we very rarely ever have anybody come around that want to get in with the lions. If they do, they probably get eaten. No, I'm joking. They'll probably lick them to death.
The lions can be found lazing about in a large fenced-off grassed area to the rear of the big top, oblivious to the debate surrounding them. With social change, circuses are now under intense pressure from animal welfare groups that say it's cruel to keep animals in captivity, that they shouldn't be kept in small cages.
This is the cages that they can't turn around in. They're not big enough, aren't they, Glenn? They can't turn around in these. Cramped up in this. Some of it's funny. If it wasn't so stupid, it'd be funny, but they come out with some weirdo things.
These lions have lived like this since they were born at the circus. They have never been in the wild, so this is the only life they know. They are well looked after and safe from other predators and human encroachment to their natural habitat. Matt has worked with the lions since they were cubs, so they have built up an amazing level of trust. He spends up to an hour a day with them, training and the occasional cuddle. You can sense Matt has a special bond with his lions. His partner, Winona, is well aware of the dangers Matt faces every time he goes into the ring with the cats.
I feel like he's pretty safe, but it still is a bit of a worry. They are lions, so, you know, you never really know. Hopefully he's aware at all times of what's going on, so he's, you know, they do love him, but, you know, sometimes you just never know with animals.
Matt has total respect for the lions in his care, and he knows when he enters the training area, there are 6 lions moving around him. He knows he can never drop his guard around these powerful predators.
When you're working with lions, especially if there's more than one in a cage, you need to make sure you know where they all are at all times. You need to know what they're looking at and where their focus is on. Their body language is a big thing, so the ears twitching and tail twitching, stance, if they're ready to pounce, if they're not ready to pounce, you know, pretty relaxed. So you just got to watch their eyes. Their eyes is a big thing. Usually you can tell from their eyes what they're thinking. So he's pretty relaxed, just watching Bart over there at the moment. But they're all pretty good. They all have their own personalities and moods, and Sometimes they're in a good mood and sometimes they're not, and as long as you are paying attention, it's pretty safe.
Hello, boy. He's beautiful.
There is a lot of trust between the lions and Jan. Putting your hand inside a lion's cage is something that Jan doesn't recommend.
I wouldn't let any strangers do that. We know them pretty well and how far you could go with them. If they were not in a really flash mood, I wouldn't do it, but that's very rare. But now and again, just the other two bigger males will have a bit of a barney with each other about who's going to be the boss of the females. They are beautiful, gentle animals, and you would probably trust any animal, no more than about 95%, but they're just like a dog even. Who knows if a dog could ever turn.
So far, the lions have been relaxed, but there is a change in mood in the training area between two of the males, and we get a glimpse of what lions are capable of.
There's always that very, very, very slight chance, very slight. But so far, they've been really good. Hey, hey! So what I mean, they're going to have a barney over the girl that. Hey, hey! Stop it! Oi, stop it! Oi! Hey, hey, hey! Stop it! Stop it! They have a little barney every now and again. They don't do any damage to each other. Just for something to do, I think.
After the dust has settled and the brief altercation is over, the victor lies next to the female, while the jilted male looks across. Today, mating season has a winner and a loser.
He's a pretty good-natured lion, Hulk is. Very, very calm and relaxed usually. Not much scares him, so that's always a good thing. Some lions are very jumpy, which makes it hard to work with. Usually if they're like this, it's fine, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. Something could get their attention out there and they could just run to chase that, or someone could bite him on the bum while I'm playing with him. So I've got to be ready for everything. You right there, buddy? You right there, bud? You right there, mister? Yeah, you big goofball. You big goofball, eh? Yeah, you big goofball.
Not everyone agrees that keeping exotic animals in captivity is good for the animals. But Jan maintains they have a good life and are treated as part of the family.
Well, this is their air conditioning unit, so on a very hot day, the air conditioning goes on, so they're, boom, up into there and sprawled out. They've got little ledges and shelves up in there too that they sleep on. They like to go high.
We hand raise them. They live in Glenn's caravan for the first 6 months. My wife can't handle the smell. So Glenn gets the first 6 months, which is waking up at 3 in the morning to bottle feed, and it's just like having a baby. And then they start tearing up the furniture. And the first probably year we trained out here in the yard just to get all the basics down, like staying on the pedestal and stuff like that. So we train out here so anybody can come and watch. Every day, it's just playtime in here. Here's just neutral ground, in there I'm the boss, we do the jobs, and out here is playtime, so. It's all reward based, so they know what to do, and they're always wanting to do it before I ask them to instead of waiting for their turn. So they really want to do it, it's just getting them to wait is the hard bit. So they eat out of my hand, usually some nice fresh horse or something. And if they're full, they don't want it, and if they're too hungry, they'll take your hand with it. So you've got to sort of keep them at that stage where they're not hungry, but they're not too full to eat.
You can never underestimate the power of one of the largest felines in the world. In the wild, they work together to hunt their prey. Lionesses do most of the hunting for the pride, each having different roles and working together efficiently to bring down their prey, using their vice-like jaw to snap the victim's neck and drag it to the ground. The lions might be the resident stars of the circus, but the rhesus macaque monkeys are another exotic that looks cute at first sight, but but can attack if they don't know you.
Oh, it's beautiful boys. He's a beautiful boy. He's a beautiful boy. The two in this cage are the youngest two that we've got. But they don't take kindly to strangers. They're not an animal that anyone could get in with or anything. Don't get too close to them. They'll grab your glasses off. They're a bit naughty. Especially the people they don't know, more so.
We have 5 now. 2 of them really love me. The other 3, they like me, but not as much as the 2. I have trained Cleo to do hand balancing, so I work Cleo in the show.
Some might say it's cruel to make animals perform tricks, but they are never forced to do them. And if they don't want to do it, they'll soon let their trainer know.
They do bite, but everyone knows when they're out, just to make sure they keep away from the people who can't handle them.
According to Matt, Reese's macaque monkeys are charismatic, but they also have a vicious streak. So you need to think on your feet when working with them.
So you just got to sort of work with whatever they're willing to put out. They have a short attention span also, so you can't work too long with them. So when you're training, you do a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there, and they'll tell you when they're fed up, and so you move on to something else. They get bored pretty quick. This is Cleo. She's an 11-year-old rhesus macaque. She's the baby. The monkeys are good. There's always like a attitude from them, so it gives you something to deal with. And they only like a couple of people usually, so they get attached to a couple of people, and everybody else is sort of, you know, fair game. Cleo here is she's pretty smart. She knows how to undo the clip on her collar. So sometimes in the show when we have to, in between tricks, she does just has to wait. And sometimes if you're not watching, she'll unclip herself, go to the table, get a treat, and then head back home, put herself away again. Millie, the one in here that stays with Cleo, she's got a lot of attitude. She's willing to attack anybody, really. She's just full on. Family more than pets. Yeah, they're part of the family. They get all the best of everything.
The average macaque can grow up to 2 feet high and weigh up to 15 pounds. It's a small package, but when aggressive, nasty bites and the risk of disease are consequences of getting too close.
Well, they're not really wild. They've been with us their whole life, but there is still the instinct in there. Animals don't think like humans. You know, that's where the people go wrong. Animals have their own thought processes and their own way of doing things. So to us, like something we would think is nice, they think is you just letting them do whatever they want.
It's showtime, and the exotics are preparing to make an appearance to their adoring public. There are preparations that need to happen in the ring to make sure everyone is safe.
Please welcome here into the steel arena, Star Circus, Australian born and bred, performing lions.
Jan and her family enjoy sharing these animals with the public. But today's circuses are finding themselves going through a transition, deciding if they will continue including exotic animals as part of the show or need to bend to the pressures of social change to stop keeping animals in cages. These could be the last of the lions at this circus. They will not be breeding any more of them, so once these unique animals have retired, it is unlikely there will be any bred lions thrilling the audience. Time will tell as to how circuses with exotic animals will evolve under the big top in the years to come. Located in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California, the small city of Big Bear Lake is a popular holiday destination. The region draws thousands of tourists, and its picturesque surroundings have been used as locations for many Hollywood classics, including Daniel Boone, Gone with the Wind, and even Disney's Old Yeller. But Big Bear Lake is also known as the location of a much more shocking filming project. The tranquil mountains of Big Bear are a world away from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. They're also home to the well-known Hollywood animal trainer and stuntman, Randy Miller. Randy's company, Predators in Action, specializes in location and studio-trained exotic animals.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely built Predators in Action with no fear. We still do push the envelope, but back in the day, we really pushed the envelope. And I mean in every way. It could be a stunt, doing a staged attack, or even just a simple model shoot with a tiger crawling on a girl that the cat's never seen before. We did things back then we probably wouldn't do today.
Drawn to animals from a young age, Randy's family was in the seltzer business, and during the 80s, he helped turn the family business into a $100 million a year company. He lived an extravagant lifestyle and used his successful business fortune to indulge his childhood dream of owning big cats, bears, and other exotic animals.
Back in the day, I had great resources to, accommodate these types of animals and to just to get the permits and permission to have them. Basically have them with me wherever I go. And that's really what I did. We built a house in the Hollywood Hills with a 3-story glass cage. It was designed, for big exotic animals. I didn't have any animals live there full time. I had a place out in the desert where I kept all my animals. And I used to bring them in to visit while I was in Hollywood, just so I could always have my animals around.
When the family business went bankrupt, Randy was forced to find another way to both earn a living and keep his dangerous pets. He turned his eccentric hobby into a career and began supplying big cats, grizzly bears, and wolves for big-budget Hollywood movies and high-rating TV shows. His signature stunt was the staged attack, where his animals staged realistic but harmless attacks. He created a unique and potentially life-threatening product.
My staged attack was not taught. Nobody teaches you that. It was developed back in those days, like in that house with that glass cage. I used to wrestle my animals and play with them. I mean, the reason I used to wrestle and play with my animals was because of the joy I got out of it and the fun it was. But the animals bond so much stronger when you have that kind of interaction. They just do. I mean, the key to an animal's heart is to play and have fun. And those lions and tigers, bears, they love to wrestle and play. So I think most of us wrestle and play with younger animals. As they get older, it becomes much more dangerous. My whole staged attack developed out of playing with these animals as they matured and just learning how to control it.
Years of high-risk training with ferocious carnivores yielded the ultimate Hollywood payoff when Miller won a Stunt Academy Award for his role as Russell Crowe's stunt double during the tiger attack scenes in the blockbuster movie Gladiator.
Once I focused on doing film work with these animals, and I really focused on training them to be in movies, that's what we were training for, was that scene, not even knowing it. But I mean, I would say our whole career put us there. That tiger was raised its whole life to play out all that action you see in that scene. The lunging, the jumping, the snarling, and that staged attack. I got bit on that show. There were a lot of staged attack scenes, and it required a lot of takes over and over. Attacks from the back, attacks from the front. While filming one of those attack scenes, Tara, the tiger I was using, ended up grabbing the wardrobe, which was leather. So she grabbed it And, you know, she got possessive over it, is what happened. And she ended up biting. She tried to take it from me, and she bit through it and put a hole in my arm. So at that time, they cut and said, hey, we got it, done. Went, undressed, got out of wardrobe. They bandaged up my arm. And then a PA comes in and says, hey, the main camera broke. We don't know when the film actually broke, so we got to go out and refilm all that. Like the special effects camera. They got me back out there. They put a steel plate over the wound, and we started doing it again. And the only reason I was able to continue doing that attack after getting bit pretty bad was I understood why she bit me. You know, she wasn't really biting me. She didn't go after me out of anger. She went after the wardrobe and got possessive over it.
Between 1990 and 2011, there were over 300 incidents involving captive big cats in the U.S. 20 people were killed. Over the same time, captive bears killed 6 and injured 61. Working alongside predators is never 100% safe for the humans involved. American Humane is responsible for making sure that the work is safe for the animals.
Our job is really just to make sure it's done well. Our primary mission is to oversee, basically police, the care, the safety, the humane treatment of the animals while they're on set. The others want to debate whether it's philosophically okay to use these animals. So when I'm asked, you know, should these animals be used, look, we could sit here for 3 hours, 4 hours, and probably not arrive to a decent answer. But when I tell you, look, my job is to make sure that the animals that are participating, are being used in these environments, are cared for properly, that is really our job and our mission.
Big cats, grizzly bears, and wolves are popular movie stars, and they're all capable of removing human limbs in seconds. Even a monkey can cause serious lacerations and injury. Strict safety protocols are always in place, but when dealing with unpredictable natural predators, safety measures aren't always 100% effective.
You know, on the good sets, in my experience, on the controlled film sets that hire the right people, who care for their animals, who've had the time, put in the time to train them properly and go through all the preventative measures. In instances like that, I think it's very safe. I think it's very controlled and safe. Now, as it often is, it comes down to hiring the right people, right? Getting the right team around you. Because if you get someone who doesn't have the experience, you're gonna be in trouble.
One thing with my line of work, we have developed one of the best safety protocols there is. I mean, you need a fast plan if something goes wrong. And we all learned, even with that, the ultimate price can get paid, you know? These animals are capable of taking somebody's life in a matter of seconds. So my position, knowing that, anybody handling these animals, not just owning these animals, but working around these animals, should have the education and experience to participate in stopping or helping save somebody's life if there's an accident or an attack taking place.
Many exotic pet owners raise their animals from babies, building a strong bond and creating a sense of trust. It can be easy to forget that such majestic and affectionate creatures can also be ruthless killers.
There could be a false sense of security there where you believe it's safer than it really is.
Fire Department emergency, how can I?
Hi, Brian with the transfer. She's at Onyx Summit. Calm down, off Rainbow Lane. He's bleeding from his leg heavily. Hold on, ma'am. She's at Onyx Summit off of Rainbow Lane. There's a bear, we think it's an animal attack.
Okay.
Yes, or a bear attack. A bear attack.
Until you've experienced, you know, what can happen, how fast things can change, you don't really have a clue. You know, and unfortunately, it takes a tragic, you know, accident to really experience what I'm talking about.
A bear attack, okay.
He's bleeding heavily from his neck. We're trying to get him into the car. We need someone here immediately.
And, you know, you do this long enough. You know, I know people that have been doing this for generations, and you talk to guys that have been doing this for a long time, you know, we've all experienced something.
In 2008, Randy's cousin, Stephen Miller, was fatally wounded while shooting a promotional video at Randy's Big Bear property. Stevie's co-star and killer was a 700-pound, 7.5-foot grizzly bear named Rocky. The attack was swift and completely unexpected.
We weren't ready for what happened. That's how fast it is. That's how fast it can happen. I mean, if you actually time it, once it started, it was like 3.5 seconds. It all happened really fast. So we stopped it, and actually Stevie appeared to be okay. We later learned it was a fatal bite, one single bite.
5-year-old Rocky had been trained to wrestle humans and was best known for his appearance as Dewey the Killer Bear in the 2008 film Semi-Pro.
Stevie wanted to wrestle Rocky. You know, he had experience in the past. Rocky was a great candidate for wrestling somebody that, you know, wasn't doing it all the time. The authorities deemed it an accident based on the injuries. They could tell by the injuries what type of attack or bite took place. They ruled it a single bite in Rocky's case.
Although that single bite left a profound scar on Randy, incredibly, he still lives with and cares for Rocky the Bear.
A lot of people love animals and say they love animals, but some people, like myself, love them so much they have to be with them. And I think that's the difference. You know, it's easy for somebody to criticize what we do, but they may not have that same desire. I know from experience, I have that desire. That's more important to me than anything else. Keeping my animals, caring for my animals' welfare. I mean, that's what got me into what I do. You know, it really is. It started out as a hobby, and it turned into a profession. You hear about an animal that attacks somebody that had never, you know, had an incident in the past until that moment. And that was the moment with Rocky.
Working so closely with these types of animals, owners develop a close relationship with an animal that, in the wild, would see them as prey. Perhaps surprisingly, American Humane's Quan Stewart sees that bond as beneficial for the animals too.
This gets into a very big ethical debate. You know, should these exotics be in film? And, you know, if you have the right people with the right expertise, it can provide the right long-term care for these animals. Yes, I think it's okay. A lot of these animals are domesticated at a very young age. They're used to human contact. They enjoy human contact.
I mean, there's a reward there, you know, especially with a creature that could take your life in a matter of seconds. You know, maybe part of that starts, you know, from the adrenaline rush you get with it, but there's a lot more to it than that. There really is. You know, these animals do show affection. And exotic cats, I've always said, are the most affectionate creatures on Earth. And they are. They will sit with you for hours showing affection. I mean, they're moody, and that's what makes them dangerous. It's kind of like a dog, you know, where they're very friendly and fun. And it usually takes a while before you see their instincts come out, but eventually they will. And all these animals get possessive, and it might be something you didn't see until that moment. And when they get like that, it doesn't matter how much they love you, they'll kill you over anything. It's just in their instincts. It's just in their DNA.
Today, Randy remains close to his collection of unusual and dangerous pets. 7 big cats and several bears, including Rocky.
I can tell you this, if you put somebody near one of these animals, there is a chance something could go wrong. There is.
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the U.S. alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow. Mark Colhorst knows his animals. Owner of the traveling zoo, Mark's Ark, and with over 40 species living on his property, he really is a modern-day Noah. From horses to ducks, rabbits to frogs, Mark is an expert on all things cute and cuddly. But Mark also has a curiosity for the dangerous side of animal handling. His pride and joy are some of the world's most hostile predators.
I'm going to be getting out Ivy. Ivy is the larger of my two alligators. Really, quite honestly, not knowing what her type of temperament is, and she's quite different than any others that I've ever had. She is not friendly. This is not a normal pet. You guys might want to stand back because she's going to get an avalanche of water. And the way she's presenting right here, she can take a hold of this and bust it easily. I go through a lot of these. You might ask why I do this. And when she is taped, she calms right down. She kind of knows this is a job. What I'm trying to do is get her tail so that I have control. There we go. That's really good. And then I can get her from behind. She is not happy. This is actually easier than it usually goes with her. So once I control her tail and I've got the back of her head, then I can just press her firmly but not harming her down, and then her bite power is very powerful on the way down but not up. Electrical tape only will tape against itself and not on her, so it doesn't pull her skin. She can breathe perfectly fine. And once I have her subdued like this, she can't bite, and she's really of no danger unless she decides she wanted to use her tail. I would feel completely confident in letting a very small child hold her now. And a lot of people are worried about the claws. The nails, they're not very sharp actually, and they really don't serve a whole lot of purpose. They do dig in the mud.
At 4 years old, Ivy's still relatively small. But Mark knows the dangers she will pose once she reaches adulthood. It is likely she will grow to 9 feet long and weigh up to 250 pounds. Once she reaches 5 feet, she will be classified as a Class 3 wild animal, and Mark will need to obtain a permit to keep her.
Alligators are probably, in my opinion, one of the smarter reptiles. They definitely have anger. She has almost got my fingers. She has got me across the back with her tail. Even for this size, it would feel like somebody taking a very broad belt across your back and just drive it right back.
Exclusively found across America's southeast, alligators are some of the most menacing predators in the United States. Growing up to 15 feet and reaching 1,000 pounds, this is not a creature you want to run into unprepared.
I've never had dogs or cats when I was a kid. My parents were very tolerant, and I always had exotics. One of my first pets was a spectacled caiman. It was nasty, evil. I really liked it. My dad enjoyed it too. They're fascinating. They're smart, strong. This type of animal's been around longer than dinosaurs. It's a tricky thing to call this a pet. I've known people that have had 12-foot alligators literally in their basement in the large city of Fort Wayne near here with their toddler child that jumps on its back and played with it and pet it. And the animal had free reign of the basement and a pond, a pool. Now that's a bit extreme for me. That won't ever happen. My child never goes near this animal unless it's in my hands and it's secured. This animal can be dangerous.
Encounters between humans and alligators are on the increase in the United States. Worldwide, it's estimated that 1,000 people die every year as a result of crocodilian attacks.
I have seen her take raw chicken legs and take that bone and just crunch it in half. And I've been bitten by another alligator before, and I thought I was going to lose my thumb. It was an alligator that was about a foot longer than this that I had. And I was in a hurry and a rush to go to a show. And even though he didn't have a temperament like this, he didn't like that hurried pace. He got a hold of my thumb, and the next thing I thought was, there goes my thumb. And he pressed down and bit down so hard, it felt like, I can't imagine the pressure. I thought my thumb was gone.
Alligators' teeth break off easily, and Mark's attack left him with a tooth lodged in his hand. They have the strongest bite pressure relative to size of any crocodilian, and Mark was lucky to escape further harm while at the mercy of this wild creature.
A full-size alligator can break the femur of a cow. It's substantial. It's incredibly strong. People buy them as a novelty. These are people that they decide they want to get a pet without ever having experience with any kind of exotic animals. They buy it, it's dangerous. They thought it was a novelty. They thought it was going to be cool. It was going to be really neat. And they learn that, it's not a pet. That being said, I know my animals. I use these animals a lot for 11 years. This is a safe animal that I would never, ever, by any circumstances, ever let anybody get injured.
While Mark is highly conscientious of his animals, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for all exotic pet owners. Juan Stewart is the Chief Veterinary Officer and National Director of American Humane Hollywood. Juan has spent many years working in animal shelters and is a strong advocate for the welfare and protection of both domesticated and wild animals.
These reptiles, these birds, these small exotics, they require so much expertise, it would blow your mind. You get a small boa at your pet store and it's all of 18 inches. Well, one day that thing, if you feed it right and take care of it, it's gonna be, 8, 10, 15 feet potentially, and then what do? I mean, they get discarded. And that's not fair for the animal. They can become wild, vicious, dangerous animals.
Years spent dealing with these crocodilians means Mark has experienced firsthand the wild nature of these highly powerful animals.
Absolutely, this is a predator. You would not believe what this thing is capable of when it eats. I prefer to feed dead food when there's a situation where I have to feed live. 180 degrees different in their behavior. They are unbelievably fast, unbelievably violent. When you hear them, killing their prey, and you hear the bones crunch, there's no doubt about it. You just hear it. It's and they want to kill it as quick as possible. They're very efficient, very efficient.
When dealing with an alligator, as with any wild predator, caution is key. Returning the alligator to its cage can be a particularly difficult task, and Mark approaches it with precision and care.
The power is in her hip and her tail. So between my legs here, it's the best way I found to do it. And then I have to hold her very securely because she'll do that. And so she knows she's getting put away, and I've got to be very quick and careful with her because sometimes she'll come back at me. She's got a posture right now that's an aggressive posture. She's checking things out. She's kind of curious. And she's okay now. She's calmed down. She's gonna probably just go right back up on her platform. She knows everything's done.
Like many exotic enthusiasts, one predator is not enough to satisfy Mark's desire for the dangerous and mysterious.
This is a Colombian red-tailed boa. She's about 7, 8 years old. Her name is Rocky Balboa. They can vary a lot in their color. She has bronze. This is one of South America's largest snakes, the green anaconda being the bigger.
As an arboreal snake, Colombian red-tailed boas are natively found living in the treetops. They have the fastest strike of any snake and can easily catch monkeys and birds out of trees.
She's almost 8 feet long. She's strong enough that she could constrict enough to keep my chest from expanding to take in breath. So it's a very, very powerful snake.
Even as a trained animal handler, Mark is not immune to the power of these highly dangerous snakes. Caught alone and unaware, he experienced their predatory nature and powerful grasp.
I have had incidents before. When I was a zookeeper, I had a much larger one than this that didn't want to go back in its cage. And the snake did not want to let me go. It did not want to go back in the cage. And I struggled with the snake for well over an hour. I could not get to my radio. I was able to get the upper hand on it. I think I just literally had more energy than it did. And I was able to literally take it off like a pair of pants and slide it down. But when I was done, I can't remember, but only a few other times where I was so exhausted in my life. These are the strongest animals, and their musculature and the way they hold on is different than anything else. I've been bitten by large snakes like this before, and they're so fast that you don't even realize that you're bitten at first because it's so quick that even your nerve endings don't fire right. Honestly, you think, was I just bitten? And then you realize that you've got 60, 70 tooth marks in your arm from a snake like this, and it's a ½ inch deep. It bleeds for quite a long time before your blood clots, and it does hurt. Imagine having 60 hypodermics all in one short, small area. This is not a domesticated or tame animal. You never know when you're gonna have a bad day with that animal. You just have to know the animal. I can kind of tell with my animals when they're not feeling good or anything. She's doing fine. She's having a great time. If she were not, she would be closed up and tight.
Perhaps the most widely feared of Mark's collection is his tarantula. While its venom won't kill you, the tarantula's razor-sharp fangs and large hairy body make it infamous around the world.
I don't know that I'm gonna be holding her. She just bit into this, and let me tell you what, it was quite something. She just dug her fangs right in that wood. I've held her before, but boy, she just drove them right in. This is a Chilean rose hair tarantula, a very common tarantula available in pet stores. They typically have a reputation as being a really calm spider. This is a female. Females can live a lot longer than males, up to 30 years. Males are short, 7 to 9 years. And I've never been bitten by a tarantula. Don't ever want to. She has ½ inch fangs. The venom, though, is described as being relatively benign. The bite is what hurts. I mean, having ½ inch fangs, 2 of them. And spiders are really soft, but what they do when they bite is they grab really powerful, and they bite and let go. That powerful grab is tremendous. Probably the snake and the spiders are the most fearful animals that I have, that I show. I am not a cat person, a wild cat person, small or large cat, and I'm not a primate person. I am completely against those type of animals. Big cats, primates, they're too smart for their own good, and they're dealing with an animal that matures like a human being, except they're a wild animal. And so when something turns 15 and their testosterone blooms 4 times greater than a human being in an animal that's only 30 or 40 pounds, and you yank the chain around the neck of that animal one too many times and that animal wants to be dominant in a troop, you're in trouble. I worked with primates too long, and they definitely are not a pet. This is something you can control, you can take care of. Primates are not something for everybody, for anybody. Now, normally I would handle spiders a lot easier, more comfortable in this, but she's, like I said, I'm a little more unfamiliar with her. This is not something I've done many times with her. These aren't for everybody, no, no, definitely not.
I can go in the cage with all the animals out here. The question is, can I come back out of the cage?
When driving through rural Indiana, there are many sounds you would expect to hear. What may surprise you is the roar of a mighty tiger. Opened in 1991 by Indiana local Joe Taft, the Exotic Feline Rescue Center is a refuge for the abandoned and the abused. Home to over 200 exotic cats across 9 different species. Joe's long-held interest in exotic cats began in his youth.
I started with cats in the mid-'60s. I bought an ocelot as a pet for absolutely no good reason. After the ocelot, I had a leopard that I lived with for 19 years, and I lived with her. I mean, she was a pet. She had a big outside enclosure, but she had 3 rooms in the house, and she had the run of my house most of the time. She slept in my bed at night her whole life. And during the winter, she was under the covers with her head out in the pillow. During the summer, she was over on the couch.
Joe's attitude towards pet ownership changed after witnessing the mistreatment many of these creatures face in captivity.
What we do here puts us in contact with the 98% of the people who have these animals who shouldn't. And very seldom are we in contact with those 2% or maybe even 1% of people who have them that do a good job.
In the United States, laws concerning exotic pet ownership are handled at a state level. Indiana laws are considered relatively lenient compared to other states, requiring little more than a permit for exotic pet ownership. Despite this, many owners don't bother with a permit, instead purchasing animals illegally from breeders online.
You could find these animals on the internet, and you could get them for $500 or $1,000. And there wasn't much regulation about their interstate movement. Now there are new federal laws in effect that clamp down on the interstate movement of big cats in the pet market. Unfortunately, a USDA permit is easy to come by, and if you have a USDA permit, then you can move the cats back and forth across state lines. On the other hand, there cannot be any money involved in those movements. And frankly, you know that most of the exchanges involving these animals, there is money involved.
All of the cats at the center are rescues, arriving from zoos, circuses, breeders, and pet owners around the country. Joe has made it his mission to rescue ill-treated felines and educate the public about these beautiful and mysterious animals.
A lot of these cats come here poorly nourished. You get an animal like this in a little cage and upset, and he snaps at something, they'll break their teeth off. So cats would come to us with big grooves cut in their teeth right at the base, and then it wouldn't take a lot of impact with something just to snap those teeth off. Although I've certainly seen upset tigers hit steel bars and teeth just break.
Many of Joe's rescues arrive in cages not suitable for their size. With over 25 years on the job, Joe has seen firsthand how mistreatment can have long-term physical and psychological effects on these majestic creatures.
These were circus lions. When the guy that owned these retired from the circus, he wheeled 9 big cats into his barn in circus wheel cages, and that's where they spent the next 10 years. 6 years into that, he bought another tiger and put her in a 5x7 cage, and she lived in that for 4 years in that barn. Finally, the USDA decided that it was time to quit patting this guy in the head, and they called me one morning and said, "We have 10 big cats up here. We want you to take 8 of them and crate the other 2 for another facility." We did it the next day in a blizzard, 2.5 feet of snow. These guys could barely walk when they got here. They were here for a month before they first tried to run, and then they just fell over. The guy that had these lions certainly didn't give a damn about them. But they're doing much better now.
It's no fault of Joe's that some of his animals arrive displaying the physical scars of previous neglect.
Zozo. She walks in a circle because for 4 years she was in a cage that was 5 foot by 7 foot. And she didn't have the ability to walk anywhere else.
Years of mistreatment can also have significant behavioral effects on the predator, with many of the felines arriving depressed, anxious, and overly aggressive.
I don't do things that would make me afraid. You know, after working with big cats for over 50 years, I know the things that people do that are scary. And one of my serious goals is to be able to do this again tomorrow. So you can't do that if they hurt you. Huh, come here. Hi. I mean, she's as sweet as can be, but she is full of energy, and she would certainly break me.
Even with the protection of a fence, Joe knows never to let your guard down around these vicious predators, especially when they're hungry.
The oldest tiger that's ever been here was 26 when she died. And sometimes we blame that on what she ate before she came here, which was a 17-year-old girl. Court documents describe the tigers as, quote, extraordinarily hungry, unquote. We didn't get them for 2 years after the incident, and they were still extraordinarily hungry. They were all part of a traveling animal show, and the guy had jury-rigged some cages in a barn so he could go out and party for the winter, and left them in the care of a young girl who did not have a reliable source of food, and they hadn't been fed at all for 4 days. And she went in the barn and took her teenage friend in with her. But the court transcripts say that the keeper girl, who didn't have the experience to be a keeper to begin with, went up to the cage where these hungry tigers were with a hose to give them water, turned her back to talk to her friend, and you saw what happened when I turned my back on. Only these guys were hungry. And the tigers reached out and grabbed her and pulled her back to the fence. And her teenage friend ran up to try and save her. And they grabbed her friend's arm and pulled it off and ran off and ate it. And the girl died on the floor.
Sadly, this shocking attack is not an isolated incident. Since 1990, more than 300 dangerous events involving big cats have occurred, resulting in the deaths of 4 children and 16 adults. The staff at the rescue center are highly trained and well aware of the risks associated with working with such a powerful animal. Regardless of the situation, these are dangerous predators.
I wouldn't want to go in there and let her sit in my lap. She would definitely take your fingers off as a food source. You can see she's not interested in that much anymore. Where did you get that big belly? You're not a skinny little girl anymore, are you? No.
Since opening the rescue center, Joe and his team have saved countless big cats from all around the country and have had their fair share of close calls. Bruises, scratches, and broken bones are all part of the job when working with some of the world's most formidable predators. However, these big cats are not Joe's only threat. His work also receives public backlash.
This tiger is one of 4 tigers that we took out of downtown Gary, Indiana. This was a federal seizure, and the USDA called us the day before we were supposed to take these cats and said, we're afraid to be in this neighborhood in the afternoon. Why don't you come up and spend the night in a neighboring town, and we'll go in first thing in the morning and take them. Well, the state police showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they put yellow crime scene tape around the place. We got there 10 minutes later, and there were probably 100 people on the streets ready to throw beer bottles at us. So it was an interesting morning. He had 3 of them in the back room of his tattoo parlor, and this one was out in the parking lot behind the tattoo parlor. Look at his claws now. See those claws? Children. These guys came here when they were 6 months old. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service asked us to go to New York and take a leopard, which we did. And as we took the leopard, they told the guy, we're not going to prosecute on this, don't do it again. He must have been on the phone buying these leopards before we got all the way out of his driveway. And 6 months later, after his wife escaped from being chained and beaten in the basement stairs, she went to the police, and the police came back and found 2 leopards and 4 kids. So we went out and got these 2 leopards.
But for Joe and his team, the risks are worth it. To see these magnificent, powerful creatures given a second chance at life.
This tiger came from Branson, Missouri, where he was in a magic theater, where they cleaned his cage every day with bleach. Didn't particularly bother to rinse the bleach off.
In many cases, the effects of long-term neglect continue to manifest themselves even years later.
He had bleach burns on all of his feet. He could barely stand up. See how he still holds that 1 foot up?
Sebastian the tiger also arrived in a poor condition. A detached retina meant he was in constant pain and in need of an urgent operation. He is just one of 25 of Joe's rescued tigers that have required surgery on their eyes. While Joe dedicates his time and money to providing medical attention to those animals who need it, fortunately, not all of them arrive badly neglected. One of Joe's charges still has a special place in the heart of one Ohio State trooper and his wife.
She came from an Ohio State trooper who had encountered her as a sick and injured cub. And then he took her home, and he and his wife nursed this animal back to health and kept her for 9 years. Ohio was one of the states that had no regulations about the keeping of wild animals. And then Ohio passed some incredibly knee-jerk regulations. And as a result of those regulations, this state patrolman was forced to give this animal up.
On October 18, 2011, Ohio resident Terry Thompson let loose his vast collection of exotic animals in the streets of Zanesville. 56 animals, including black bears, mountain lions, Bengal tigers, wolves, and leopards roam the streets, terrifying residents. Shortly after, state legislation was changed, making the private ownership of wild animals and restricted snakes increasingly difficult.
Even before I came into the legislature, there were some issues at hand with wild animals. You know, they got talked about, but then after a couple months, it kind of went away. We wanted to make more than just a motion with this. We wanted to actually implement something and get something moving. And when we looked at this legislation, we wanted to be different than any other state. Everyone said, well, look at the other states and look what they're doing around you. We didn't want to do it that way. We wanted to make this Ohio, and we were going to stand and make it Ohio law. And that's how we wanted to do it. We didn't want to base any of the legislation off what other states were doing.
We went over to get the cat. He lived way out in the country. We had a hard time finding him. When we finally found the house, there was a state police car out in front, and I thought, we're too late, there's been trouble. But as it turned out, he was the owner. Of all the cats that we have here that had been privately owned, this officer and his wife are the only people who come to visit, and they come every few months. Considering the number of cougars in this country, the number of people who are hurt or killed by cougars is minuscule. You have to really trigger one of these animals to come after you. Most people that are attacked by cougars don't know there's a cougar there. I mean, if you're jogging down a mountain trail or mountain biking, you can go by one and trigger all of their chase instincts, and they will chase you.
While many of these owners have good intentions, according to Joe, a lack of understanding about how to properly care for the wild animals often results in mistreatment and neglect.
You know, there are people who have these animals, people in private hands, who take incredibly good care of them. And I'm not against that. I'm against poor care. I'm against incompetent ownership. Indiana, I think, has some pretty reasonable state regulations. If you can acquire one of these animals legally and you can jump through some hoops, you can get a permit to keep one in Indiana. So, you know, in that regard, we're certainly not in favor of seeing them, you know, for sale in your local pet store. But there are people that take good care of them, and I'm not in favor of seeing them taken away from them either. We're making a difference for one animal at a time. We're not making a political statement. We're not saying that people should or should not have these animals. We're saying that this is an animal who is in trouble. This is an animal that has been mistreated. This is an animal whose life is endangered. And we will step forward and do what we can do to save that animal. You know, we will go wherever they are to get them. We will bring them back here. We will make whatever medical technology is at our disposal available to them, and we will see that they have a safe place to stay for the rest of their life.
You will get hurt. Are they gonna kill you? No, they're not gonna kill you, but they're gonna hurt you. They will scratch you up pretty bad.
Val Mahler is crazy about bobcats. Since opening the National Bobcat Rescue and Research Center in 2008, her life has been devoted to protecting and studying the often misunderstood predator.
I've worked in the animal business my entire life. I've been a wildlife biologist, moved out here to do something completely different and fell into bobcats because that was what was booming at the time that there was no one else out here. I have not met a more intelligent, compassionate, emotional animal in my entire life. Bobcats, in comparison to their body size, have the largest brain of any of the felines. It doesn't matter if it's wild or if it's one that's been raised in captivity. They all have this deep emotional bond with each other or with their human people. If they're a pet, they develop a deep emotional bond.
Val's bobcats have developed this bond and show their affection by rubbing their glands on her and marking their scent.
Oh, you're gonna squish me. You're gonna squish me.
Headbutting and mouth-to-mouth contact are also believed to be the ultimate displays of affection.
You're fat. You're fat boy. No.
Normally the difference in the marking and the affection, she will rub her head up against like this. This is more of affection, and then she'll lick my nose a lot and hold it with her teeth. Oh, no.
Oh, no. That's Dalton. That's Dalton, isn't it? Oh, I know. Oh, I know. I know.
Despite their friendly appearance, Val knows that the best place for these predators is out in the wild.
Bobcats really do need to live in the wild. The reality is a bobcat is a wild cat, F0, they are wild. And so to put a wild animal, even if it's affectionate, even if it loves you as a cub, to put it into a pet environment is really just, it's just not, I don't know, but it's not realistic. They are going to tear your house up. They can't be a house pet. If you are going to keep them as a pet, which we never condone, they need to be kept in large cages. You need to have the funding to be able to feed them every day. They're an obligate carnivore. They have to be fed meat. If you go to the grocery store and buy food, you have to use supplements to supplement that so it gives them the appropriate minerals and vitamins. So understanding what kind of animal they are, what the responsibility is to them as an emotional animal, that you cannot just leave, you can't go on a vacation and leave them behind.
Val's bobcats remain highly territorial, and their unpredictable and ultimately wild nature make even the calmest of bobcats a dangerous choice of pet.
Bobcats can be territorial. They can become food aggressive. When they have food that they want, that they think you might get from them, or when they have your phone or your keys and you want them, they're going to hurt you. They can certainly, they have the ability to hurt. Oh, I'm so sorry. You okay?
That startled me.
Yeah.
Even our camera crew fell prey to these wild animals' advances.
If you're down at the same level with them, or if they're up at eye level on a fence, the first thing they're going to do is jump at you, and they will pat you really quickly with their feet. They just go pop, 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 and your face will bleed a lot. So it's a warning. If you cross that line a second time, then that's when they use teeth, and teeth is where that begins to get more dangerous.
Oh, it's my nose.
It's my nose. I love them.
Bobcats have been known to attack household pets, including rabbits, cats, and dogs.
You're a great hairdresser.
Even animal lover Val, who has around 50 animals living in her house, won't let the cats roam freely.
I would absolutely not keep a bobcat running around my house. To me, that would be insane. I have over 70 on the property. I have my choice of every personality and every, the extremes, one end to the other, from the sweetest to the craziest. And there's not one on this property that I would comfortably put into my house.
Bobcats are nocturnal and primarily hunt under the cover of night. With a diet consisting of small and medium-sized mammals, this fierce predator will first stalk its prey before striking with razor-sharp precision, cutting the spinal cord of its unsuspecting victim. Val considers that the urbanization of traditional rural areas has, in fact, provided an almost ideal hunting ground for the bobcat. The planting of domestic shrubs, trees, and lawns has increased rabbit, bird, mice, and squirrel populations, all of which are the perfect bobcat prey. Bobcats are also known to kill prey much bigger than themselves, and while they often hunt by stealth, they can deliver a death blow with a leaping pounce that can cover 10 feet.
That's two. What are you doing? He wants the toy.
Their reputation for being vicious and predatory hunters has made bobcat trapping commonplace in the United States.
As we know, their environment is dwindling. They're preyed upon, they're killed. So it's not the most friendly place for them outside of the borders or the safe walls of private ownership or animal company ownership.
Bobcats are common throughout North America and are found in a range of diverse habitats. They adapt well to many different living conditions and can be found in forests, swamps, and deserts. In the last 10 years, their urban population has also increased significantly.
When we talk about an urban bobcat, we're talking about an animal that has adapted to live in the urban environment. There are 12 and questionably 13 subspecies of bobcats. The science is still outstanding on it. The smallest of the subspecies are down here south in Texas along the southern borders and in Mexico. And as you go north, they get larger. We have been doing the science on bobcats here for 20 years. We have learned more about them in the past 20 years, probably than anybody has ever known about them. A lot of interesting things going on, particularly, again, with the urban bobcats, because they're almost a new species. They're a completely different animal than the rural bobcats. I can't stand it. They smell like other cats. I know. It's a matriarchal society in the urban environment. The girls are in charge. The boys generally are really submissive to them. When you see two bobcats fighting, it's largely the females.
Bobcats live a solitary lifestyle, only interacting with others of their kind during breeding season each winter. They are territorial, and run-ins at the wrong time of year are often violent. Even bobcats that have become pets remain stealthy hunters and premeditate every move they make. Val is taking a risk every time she interacts with these highly intelligent hunters. Yet she wants nothing more than to see the bobcat population thrive and survive.
Yes, there are lots of bobcats in America today. There are. And in 20 years, I think there's every likelihood that we could lose all of them due to inbreeding and genetic issues and disease, and it could take out both the urban and the rural cats. So I think that our work here is important, understanding them before this happens, and being ready for it when it does happen is going to be a very important part of what we do.
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets. and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the U.S. alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow. Gilbert's Bar G Ranch sits between the Rocky Mountains and the Sinbad Desert in Castledale, Utah. Since the 70s, Dwayne Gilbert has run a variety of livestock, including cattle and horses. Today, semi-retired, he raises a small herd of Grant zebra. Horses have been domesticated for thousands of years. Yet despite how similar they appear, zebra have never been tamed.
They've had lions chasing them for thousands of years, okay? Anything new, anything happens, they run. That's the only thing they know is to run or bite and kick. So if they're cornered, they're gonna bite and kick. I've heard stuff on TV that they've seen instances where a zebra could crush a lion's head. I would believe it.
Dwayne has been running zebra for around 20 years and applies the knowledge he's gained from raising horses.
We raised horses for a lot of years. We had a breeding stallion, run 20 head of brood mares. So I understood horses a lot. And a friend of ours in California says, you know, you like horses, you do really well, you gotta try zebras. And so we bought a few zebras and we just really enjoyed them. When we got our first zebras, it was a little bit cold. So I called the zoo and they said, oh, you have to have heated barns and you have to have this and you have to have that. So I did that and the zebras were beating each other up. They didn't like being contained. And so when I called my friend, he says, turn them loose. Zebras have to have a place to go. I turned them loose and everything was fine.
To an experienced rancher like Dwayne, handling a zebra herd is not unlike raising other, more common livestock.
When we load the babies up, when they're ready to wean, we'll go up to our corrals and I'll feed them up there and we'll put them in a corral. The next day I'll feed outside the corral and I'll just stand at the gate and wait for the ones to come out that I don't want until we have what we want left in there. We go from there into a loading alley and right into a horse trailer. It's like working with wild horses or cattle. They're not broke to lead. You're not gonna just push them in. If you'll notice, I fed my zebras, I strung the hay out. They're just like other animals. They have a pecking order. If you don't string it out, if you've got it all in one container in a feeder, you're gonna have 3 or 4 in there and you're gonna have them kicking and biting and they'll still grab the hay, pull it out of the feeder and eat it off the ground. And so I rather bring it out here where there's some grass and it's a little bit cleaner and string it out, let the zebras find their pecking order and they have a place to run. They have a place to go more than just 10 feet in case something happens.
Dwayne's years owning zebra have made him highly knowledgeable about his striped equine herd.
If there's a situation that we have to have a vet here, then we'd sure call them. I've used a couple of different vets. I know more about them than they do, but they're there with their experience, and so that they can help do their end of it. As far as bringing them in, putting them in a chute or something, you know, I'm more familiar with them, and they just kind of stand back, and then when we get them in there, then they're able to do what they can.
While many zebra owners raise their unusual pets to be fully domesticated, Dwayne prefers his to remain wild.
I leave them wild for a reason. I don't halter break, I don't bottle feed my baby zebras. When I want zebras in my herd, I want them so that they're scared of me, okay? I don't want one that's not scared of me to where if there's an incident, it's gonna, you know, hurt me. I don't want that. As any other animal, especially equine, you take a stallion, and if they're not scared of you, when they get their hormones, a horse of any kind, you don't know if they can turn on you or at some time bite you. And zebras are the same. And if they're tame, they're not scared of you. And I can take my stallions and they're just like this. Slow down a little bit, bud. You can feed them, they'll come up to you, be right by you when you want to feed them. But if you move, they're gone, okay? I like that. Another thing I like about this is natural out here. There's cleaner grass, they have an area, they're not in a corral where it's chances of infections or stuff.
As a practiced rancher, Dwayne is always alert when working around large animals, especially unpredictable wild animals with a kick that can easily crack a skull.
We do have coyotes here. We have mountain lions that'll come down occasionally from the mountains. One of the things we have to watch is dogs. A zebra will kill a dog real fast. And yet, if they're in a contained area, the dog will scare them. So that's, again, if they're out here, they're fine. They'll chase a dog down because it's a predator to them, and they're going to defend their babies. I could probably walk over there, but anybody different, they're just scared. They're leery of anything new, anything, you know, more than one person out here.
Zebras are aggressive animals, and fights between males are common and violent. In May of 2018, a woman in Zimbabwe was attacked by a zebra she had kept as a pet for 10 years. It bit off her thumb and part of one breast. Even as an old hand, highly experienced in handling livestock, Dwayne has been on the receiving end of a zebra's bad mood.
There was a time I sold a little male zebra, and he was, I think, 3 or 4 months old. And the guy wanted me to deliver him. So in order to keep it calm, to keep from hurting itself, I rode in a horse trailer with it, and I had a halter on it, and I would hold it. And he kept trying to bite my leg. Every time you'd think he was okay, he'd go wham, and he'd try to bite my leg, and I'd have to hold his head up. You know, another time we weaned a baby that was just a week old from its mother, and I usually run them through a chute that's got rubber belting on it to protect them, and then we just let the mother out and hold the baby. Well, I got in with the baby after the mother got out, and she was going over the top trying to bite me. I thought, you know, this is not a good situation. I should have been farther away, but luckily she couldn't reach me. But there again, she was protecting her baby.
A strong protective instinct and an equally strong tendency to startle makes for a highly unpredictable animal. So do zebras make good pets?
People want some that are bottle fed. When they want a bottle fed one, they take them anywhere from 2 days old up to 10 days old to 30 days old. and they can still bottle feed them. When they bottle feed them, it just makes them gentler. Petting zoos want a gentle zebra, okay? People that want to put one with a couple of horses and have in their yard, in their pasture, they want one that's calmer, so they'll buy one and raise it on a bottle. Other people, I've seen them take them at 6 months old, 10 months old, a year old, and put a halter on them and still break them to lead. They take a lot of work in order to get them at that point, though. A bottle-fed baby will bond with the person that's feeding it. We've seen an instance in California one time. We visited some friends and they had a little bottle baby zebra and it was only 30 days old. And they had kind of a party. Well, this zebra would follow its mother around, which is feeding her, you know, on a bottle, follow her around, and if somebody would come up and talk to her, she would get in between the two people. Like, this is my mom, leave her alone.
Dwayne also breeds and sells his zebras, and his customers have a whole range of different reasons for wanting to own one.
You know, I've been raising them over 20 years, and, you know, you just, I don't know, it just seems like we have a number of people every year still call and say, you know, I got a zebra from you, I want another one. And of course, petting zoos, they've been good clients. There's still so much of the public out there that doesn't know that you can own a zebra.
And it seems owning zebras can also bring some completely unexpected surprises and special moments.
One time a young girl from Salt Lake called me. She had heard we had zebras and she had just loved them. And I didn't know her. She called and says, if we brought a photographer down, could we get some pictures of me in my wedding dress with the zebras? And I says, you can try. But I says, you put a white dress on and step out in front of them zebras and they're gonna leave. And she says, well, I'd really like to try. I just love everything about zebras. Her and her mother showed up and she got in her wedding gown and had the photographer down here, and we came down here and I put some feed out for the zebras and they left the feed and walked right up behind that girl in that white dress like, that is something different. You just don't know how they're gonna act. So many times I think they're gonna just run and get away from anything that's new, and yet all of a sudden they'll turn around and say, hey, this doesn't scare us. See, we've got one here that says, there is something different over there.
They may not make good riding or working livestock, and their flighty nature makes them dangerous. But it's clear that the lives of Dwayne and his family are obviously enriched by having their very own zebra herd.
We love our zebras. I'll come out here in my truck and watch them, and you'll see the same thing as you'll see zebras in the wild. And to watch them run and play, especially the babies, you know, you'll get 4 or 5 babies together and they'll just run around the pasture playing and dart in and out of the other mares. And they're an animal. So you just have to watch them and learn about them.
Well, yes, they're cute, all right. Aren't they a little unusual looking?
Yes, they're monkeys.
Chimpanzees share 98% of our DNA. Their intelligence, playful nature, and their resemblance to human babies once made them popular entertainers and even popular pets.
Oh, boys, please stick that in your mouth. Now, boys, you mustn't fight like this. Danny, sit up here in the chair.
Out of all kinds of creatures that you could have as pets, chimps are probably the worst pet that you can ask for the chimp's benefit. You may get the greatest joy in the world by having a chimp, but what does the chimp get out of it?
Martine Colette is the founder of Wildlife Way Station, an exotic animal sanctuary that a colony of 40 chimpanzees now call home.
Chimps need chimps. They need to grow up in a colony with young chimps and old chimps and in-between chimps, and chimps have personality, cranky chimps and happy chimps and dominant chimps and subordinate chimps, and chimps learn by watching. And baby chimps learn everything by watching the adults. And they grow up with chimpanzee skills, which then allows them to take their rightful place in the world of chimpanzees.
Having worked closely with chimpanzees for more than 40 years, primatologist Bob Ingersoll agrees.
I mean, it's like being a human. You could build me the nicest apartment on the planet. I could live here in this apartment and have a beautiful view like I do, but if I didn't have anyone to talk to or anyone to express my humanness to, that would be a pretty harsh existence. Chimps need other chimps, just like humans need other humans.
Bob was part of the controversial NIM research project in the 1970s, in which researchers explored captive chimpanzees' ability to learn language.
Chimps are chimps, bats are bats, and they behave with their genetic predisposition, but on the cellular level, they're very similar to us. So it makes sense to me that those animals are thinking just like us. Well, I actually had 2 years of experience before I met Nim, and Nim came back to the University of Oklahoma in September of 1977. So I knew all of his brothers. I knew several of his other siblings that were twins, several female and male chimps. But I took to Nim quickly, and I saw Nim as a needy chimp that needed a friend, and I wanted to be his friend.
Bob worked very closely with Nim and his siblings, teaching them American Sign Language. He eventually learned that chimpanzees are not as similar to human beings as we'd like to think.
First and foremost, chimps need to be with other chimps. Secondarily, they need an area, a place where they can be together that's comfortable to them. And in captivity, that's very difficult. I mean, I work with a number of sanctuaries, and that's always our problem, that no matter what, you can't give them freedom. We do what I call the illusion of freedom as best we can, but at the end of the day, they're still in captivity. And like I keep saying, captivity is the enemy.
In most U.S. states, it is now illegal to own a chimp. And since 2015, when captive chimpanzees were classified as an endangered species, they can no longer be used in invasive testing.
A few years ago, the United States, put a moratorium on that and then ended it. And NIH and the government agencies that own the chimps that were part of all that are now in the process of retiring them. Chimp Haven has been established, which is the National Chimp Sanctuary in Louisiana. There are several hundred chimps there, and probably several hundred more that will be going there. So chimps in the United States are at least the ones that were institutionally held by either the government or pharmaceutical manufacturers or drug companies or hospitals. They're now in the process of retiring those animals. The pets, on the other hand, and the entertainment chimps, not quite so lucky.
Most of my colony is from biomedical research, and I am pleased and proud to say chimpanzees are amazing. They are very philosophical. They do learn. They adapt well, and we probably have the biggest group of chimpanzees in the western United States here. And there are bigger chimp sanctuaries in Florida and in Louisiana. And they have, of course, bigger grounds and big opportunities than we do here. But based on all the knowledge I have had, we've had only one really, really tragic chimp that came to us. He was a self-mutilator, and he would bite and rip and destroy anything from the end of his fingers to as far as he could reach with his mouth, on both arms and hands, and down his legs. And it took us 5 years before we could stop that type of behavior. But stop we did. Well, actually, he did. We gave the opportunities, we gave different options, and he adjusted and adapted. And towards the latter part of his days, the last few years of his life, he lived in a group of chimpanzees. And I'm thrilled.
Many chimps now living in sanctuaries came from private owners who learned that baby chimps may be cute, but adolescent and adult chimps can be deadly.
No, I wouldn't say that a chimpanzee was necessarily a predator in the sense that a big cat or a lion or any of those, or a crocodile or barracuda fish or whatever, are predators. But in the wild, chimpanzees cooperatively hunt. They eat monkeys, they hunt monkeys, they hunt bush buck, and that's fairly natural. I think that's also, I'm interested in chimp cognitive behavior, and when you understand what they do in the hunting situation in the wild, it's fairly complicated. They send out points, they talk amongst each other, they move the animal to the tree that they're going to, do whatever. So the planning and the advanced thinking and those sorts of things that you see in that context are complicated, and they are definitely preying on those monkeys.
Those who do choose to take on chimpanzee ownership rarely keep their dangerous pets for more than a few years.
Very seldom, very seldom. By the time a chimp is 5, 6 years old, sometimes 7, it's already becoming a chimp. It's assertive and it wants to do this, and unless you understand chimps and you are a good and a kind trainer, you're not going to be able to teach this chimp what you need him to do, because you're not treating him in that manner. This is your pet, this is your baby, and they can be dangerous. As you've heard about some of the accidents that happen throughout the world, they're pretty brutal.
In 2009, Charla Nash was severely mauled by her friend's exotic pet. She lost both her hands, her nose, ears, and her sight.
Stand for 911. Where's your emergency?
This is Sandy. 231 Rock Crimmon Road.
What's the problem?
Send the police. Send the police. He's killing my friend.
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee. He ripped her apart. Hurry up.
With a gun.
Hurry up, please.
There's someone on the way.
With guns, please. You shoot him.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey...
He ripped her face off.
The easily visible muscles on this chimp with alopecia show just how strong these chimpanzees are. Combine that strength with almost human intelligence, and the chimp can be a formidable threat.
Chimps are dangerous because most people do not understand what is a chimpanzee. In the world of chimpanzees, might is right. There is a very definitive hierarchy and so on and so forth. There is order in a chimp colony. It may not appear so for somebody standing outside and watching some of the behavior, but there is order. But chimps are dangerous. They are 5 times as strong as you are. They have an intellect of 5, 6, and occasionally even a 7-year-old child. That's very bright. They can plan, they can figure, they can create situations where they will pre-plan things. So, and they can be very volatile. And so somebody does something against them, they're explosive and volatile, and they have teeth this long. And I've got arms, and they can do serious damage to people.
Due to recent changes to legislation, sanctuaries are also seeing an increase in surrendered pet chimps.
Well, I think that those people that own chimps are less out there now. I think that those people should be examining the next step, which would be sanctuary. The pet chimps especially, I think, because I work at the Center for Great Apes, I know what they do and I know it's righteous. I know that they've taken animals in that didn't, you wouldn't think would have a chance to be integrated into a group and then become a chimp, but I've seen it happen. And I know people that have turned their chimps over to us who we don't deny them access. They get to come and visit. We don't disallow them from coming to visit their ex-pets. But we have a number of people that had chimp pets that realized their mistake and have rectified that by turning their chimps over to us. So, I mean, the reality is that this is ending slowly but surely, and it's fewer and fewer chimps are sold in the United States per year. There are probably around 400 chimps that are still kind of up in the air in terms of what's going to happen, where they're going to go. And slowly but surely, we are attempting to move the chimps that aren't in an accredited situation into an accredited situation.
Chimpanzees that come to sanctuaries from private ownership situations often have a hard time learning how to be chimps again.
The chimps who've never seen grass or trees or sky or birds, I mean, they're startled by it and they're a little leery of it. They can be fearful to step outside. But a chimp's got a great brain, and it's curious, and it does step out eventually, and it will sit and it will look, and it will figure things out, and it'll watch by example.
Most chimpanzees raised in captivity still enjoy and even seek out human contact.
We here believe in creating an atmosphere where the chimps are trusting of their keepers and of their supervisors, of their people. So you can bring them along. You can make them feel secure. You can give them options of friends. They can choose their friends who they want to hang out with. You give a chimp an opportunity, and you help it along in the areas where it has not been comfortable. They settle very nicely.
There are a number of chimpanzees that have been in situations that are so egregious. I can tell you about one named Clyde, who lived for 35 years in a box in a garage. That's just wrong. And so when an animal like that comes to the Center for Great Apes, we read as best we can the behavior of that animal, and we do what's best we think for them. If they solicit our attention, we give it to them. If they solicit our grooming, for example, not all of us, but the ones of us that have been clearly trained and checked out so that we don't lose our hands or fingers or whatever, we do that. What we do more than anything, though, is we try to interject that chimp in with other chimps. We try to introduce them together, and we've been fairly successful at the center.
Some captive chimps even prefer being with humans to being with other chimpanzees.
There are a couple of cases that, and one in particular, a chimpanzee that a beloved chimp to me that passed away a few years ago named Denise. She just didn't get along with chimps. She didn't have that opportunity to be a chimp when she was young, and she didn't like chimps. She grew up in a home. She drank beers and cigarettes, used cigarettes, and when she came to us, it was very tough, and she was a tough lady. She didn't like chimps. She wanted to be with humans. And at the end of Denise's life for the last 2 years, we did the best we could to make her life as fun and as positive. Still being around other chimps, just not in direct contact because it didn't work out for her. But for the most part, we tried as best we can to get chimps with other chimps. And it's a beautiful thing when you see a chimp that's never been with a chimp grooming one another, rolling around and being a chimp. And when that happens, we don't interject. We purposefully move away from that. We attempt to let them be chimps. We don't approach them if they approach us, and if they solicit our, like, hey, Bob, come over here, because chimps know how to, get your attention. Like that, for example, or or whatever, they get your attention, then you know it. And then you decide whether or not, that's something that's appropriate or not.
The consensus among great ape experts is that chimpanzees need to live like chimpanzees. Martine believes that even captive colonies should be able to live as wild chimps.
It's interesting. I believe in the case of chimpanzees, I think every chimp group anywhere in the world should be allowed to reproduce every 5, 6, 7 years. Because a baby in a chimp colony is a glue that keeps them together. It is the joy. They are so alive. They are so interested in the baby. And there are aunts, and there are uncles, and there are kids to play with, and everybody loves a baby. And I think the quality of life for chimps is greatly enhanced when every so often there's a baby. So I believe, although we don't do it, but I personally believe we should allow decent-sized groups of chimps to have a baby every so many years.
Chimpanzee family groups may seem similar to humans, and their babies may seem just as adorable as human babies. But all that we have learned about chimps tells us that no matter how much they resemble humans, they are simply not meant to live as humans.
Well, I am against captivity in the sense that for these animals that shouldn't be captive, but I also understand that they came to be in the situation they are over time, and from a time when we don't have the viewpoint we do now, and so some of the chimps are caught up in that. For the most part, they're aging out. I mean, we have a lot of 40, 50-year-old chimps that are passing away in sanctuaries. And as they pass away, the numbers dwindle. And ultimately, I think that those situations will end. There won't be the surplus of animals that we had in the 60s and 70s and 80s when there wasn't a moratorium on breeding and that sort of thing.
Find a nice sanctuary and place that animal in a nice sanctuary to allow this animal to have an opportunity to grow up to be a chimpanzee.
In the United Kingdom, exotic pet ownership is on the rise. However, not all owners possess the knowledge or experience to provide adequate care for these animals. Ark Wildlife Park is the United Kingdom's first rescue zoo, homing over 180 animals who have been rescued or donated from private pet ownership.
Ark Wildlife Park originally started off life as purely a reptile sanctuary. So all the snakes and lizards in here are ex-pets, and then over the years people started bringing us more and more unusual and weirder animals. This in here is a little grey-banded king snake. This little lady in particular is an albino, so she's got some beautiful coloration on her. And you can see why these guys are popular as a pet species. These little snakes and lizards can make great pets because if you go away for the weekend, as long as you've made sure there's someone to give them some fresh water, these guys aren't going to pine for you like a cat or a dog is going to, and they certainly don't need taking out for walks. So in some respects, they can actually be much less lower maintenance than sort of some of our more traditional pet animals like cats and dogs, but whether you actually get that reciprocal love come back to you, not really, I'm afraid. I don't think she'd ever miss me if I wasn't around. Like with any pet, people really need to do their research, and the other thing you have to factor in, a hamster or a gerbil is going to be with you 2-3 years. This little lady here, she can potentially be with us for about 20 odd years. So reptiles, as a general rule, not all species, but as a general rule, they can have quite long lifespans. Compared to sort of most pet species, no, they thrive in a much smaller environment because that's what they're sort of designed to do. The reason why you go out into the countryside and you very rarely, if ever, you'll see a snake coming across you because they're too busy hiding. That's what snakes do, I think. So they do like to be sort of like a bit more confined than traditional animals. A small crocodilian, the best way to handle them is to grab them firmly right behind the jawline so they can't swing their head back and grab you. Rudolph's reaching the size now where another foot or so I wouldn't be happy handling him, but at this size, one man can easily handle one of these crocodilians if you know what you're doing and you've been trained. Again, this is where it comes to, they don't make good pets. Make a mistake, they can easily take your finger off. Just going to go in behind, grab him by the back of the head, gently ease him out, and then keep your hand locked behind and also support the hind quarters, more for his comfort than anything. Certainly when he starts getting much bigger than this, we wouldn't be actively handling him. Nowhere near fully grown yet, but he's potentially going to max out about 7 or 8 foot long. Like most of the animals here on the park, he's one of our rescues, an ex-pet that was being kept illegally. These guys have got one of the strongest bite forces of any animal in the animal kingdom. The crocodilians have got a very powerful bite. Even at this size, this guy could easily remove my fingers, which is why I keep my hands nice and firmly locked behind his jaws, but they're certainly, I couldn't think of a worse animal to have as a pet, really. This guy can potentially live 50 or 60 years. So that's the other thing people have to consider when they get a pet reptile, even the more common pet species like corn snakes and leopard geckos. They're not like a hamster or a gerbil that's going to be with you a couple of years. They've got the potential, a lot of these pet reptiles, 30, 40 years easily. But of course you have to factor in, potentially they are dangerous. No, he's never bitten me, but I don't give him the chance to. Crocodilians, you can't trust them. It's not like a dog or a cat. Even though he's quite relaxed and laid back as far as crocodilians go, I'd never trust him. I don't give him that opportunity, so I'd never let him just sit on my lap loose, as it were. It only takes one mistake and you're going to lose a finger, so it's just not worth it.
Another animal that shouldn't be confused for a house pet is the lynx. While they may look like a beautiful feline, the lynx is a wild cat and a very skilled predator.
This is Echo, and she's our beautiful Eurasian lynx. They cover historically Europe and Asia, used to actually be native here to the UK. And all lynx are characterised by those wonderful little tufts on the tip of the ears and the little short bob tail. And they're the characteristics of the 4 lynx species. She's been with us since she was only a little kit. She's not a rescue, she was brought in as an ambassador animal. We want to start helpfully raising funds for the Iberian lynx breeding project, her close cousin, which is also unfortunately the most endangered wild cat species in the world. I certainly couldn't recommend any wild cat species as being kept as a pet. She certainly has a loyalty to me because she's known me since she was a kit and I can safely come in here with her, but I'm the only one that comes in with her just to be on the safe side. At the end of the day, she's a wild animal and you've got to treat her like that. She's not a domestic cat. Despite the purring and the rolling on her back for belly rubs, it can be very easy to forget that these guys are a wild animal. And she's certainly got the strength, the ability and the armoury. These guys have got big long old claws and teeth on them to do some nasty damage to me. If she was a tiger or a lion, I certainly wouldn't be in here with her, no matter what the bond we have. If you were to have a bad day, I'd walk away from the situation, whereas if you're something like a tiger, I wouldn't. But either way, you've got to remember these are wild animals, so you've got to treat them with that sort of level of respect. They are a predator, basically purely meat eaters. Even things like wolves and wild canines, they will actually take vegetable matter into their diet, but cats are strictly, as a general rule, they're meat eaters. They're one of the most efficient predators on the planet, cats. They're fantastically designed to do what they do. Lynx are what you'd call one of the larger members of the small wildcat species, so that excludes things like leopards, cheetahs, tigers and lions. They're nowhere near the size of the big guys, as it were. But as far as more the sort of wild species of small cat, like servals, ocelots, margays, they're certainly one of the larger species. If people really want to look after an animal like this and they're willing to give it a lovely big enclosure and give it the respect and the time it deserves, then by all means do so, but never be fooled into thinking that this is a suitable pet species. For sort of 99.5% of people that consider maybe keeping a wild cat as a pet, they're really not suitable.
Foxes. They're a controversial animal that divide the public's opinion. Some see them as pests and tricksters, while others think they're adorable. Keeping a fox in Britain is legal, however, not without its challenges. They are cheeky, as our crew found out when this guy decided to investigate the camera bag.
Yeah, anything new in their enclosure has to be investigated. That's what you'd call your traditional UK fox. These grey girls, they are actually exactly the same species. They're just a colour variation that you might be more familiar with in North America. We do rarely get this sort of melanistic dark black grey version in the wild. But all three of these guys were born and bred for the UK pet industry. They're incredibly intelligent animals. As you can see, he's enjoying an ear scrunch, much like a dog would. But this, again, is where people sometimes think that maybe they're a good alternative to a dog, and they really aren't. They haven't had those thousands of years of domestication. They're really not designed to live indoors. We've heard some reports of foxes being kept in people's flats, and again, they really need to be kept outside if you're going to keep a fox in a nice, big, large outdoor enclosure. They could certainly give you a painful nip. They're not going to remove a finger. They're not going to do anything that's going to cause you any permanent damage, but they could certainly give you a nasty nip if you weren't expecting it. Being a zookeeper, this is part of the risk, so we do occasionally, when we have to handle these animals, give them vaccinations. They will give you a nip. And it's not a pleasant experience, but I wouldn't class them as a dangerous animal in the same respect as maybe the caiman or the lynx. Not having had that domestication, there's far more chance of getting a nip off a pet fox than there would be a dog.
Ark Wildlife Park is the home to many different types of animals. Some familiar, like these rabbits, goats, and pigs, and others a little more unusual. But they all have something in common. They were once pets in a private ownership. Ark Wildlife Park is the place that animals end up when private pet owners don't or can't care for them. It's important to remember that exotics are not for everyone. These animals will live out their lives in captivity, but play a role in educating the public on the reality of keeping exotic pets.